My name is Stan Taylor. I'm just from Springfield. Indivisible is a national organization with chapters in cities across the nation. He probably has locally had some sense of it because we helped to put on the No Keys rallies here in Eugene. We are part of a coalition called the Activist Coalition of Eugene Springfield, which is a coalition of 26 different organizations with various public and social and environmental missions that have joined together in ACES to organize, particularly for the hands-off rallies, No Keys rallies, which you might say the next No Keys of March 28th, part of the calendars. But we also are a coalition, as is Indivisible, that has a mission to build a local social movement that can have exercise power here in the community around important issues that can provide things like mutual aid. So we're branching out. I will say right from the start, I'm not neutral on Amazon. I don't think that Amazon is either in some real fundamental way. That's not to say that there aren't basic reasons why we should reject this warehouse without referring to the larger overall question about whether you like Amazon or not. So let's start with your question back there about notice, transparency. So you may not know that the state has a requirement for their permits that basically for a building permit to be issued in the state, the permit shall contain the following information: name and address of the owner of the building or structure to be constructed or altered under the permit. That's the first line of the code. And if you look at the legislative history of this code, the purpose of it was transparency, so that the communities where the whatever's being built is located would know who is building the project and be able to focus on that, so that it would be hidden as it has been in this case. And people have already talked about there were a series of non-disclosure agreements with architects and others that prohibited them from disclosing who the true owners are. If you look at the application was put in by a corporation called Trammell Pro, which happens to be the corporation that has built most of the Amazon warehouses around the nation. And when they put on the application for who was the owner of the project, or should be the owner of the property, they put the vice president of Trammell Pro down. This is another issue. With Trammell Pro, you've been involved in all sorts of things that have gotten them in trouble legally. So it's a very interesting partnership that Trammell Pro has with Amazon. So if you look at Amazon in this particular framework, Amazon got non-disclosure agreements from the architects. When you talk about, can you bring the map back up?
Oh, yeah.
Just go up just a little bit. So if you look at this location, when Amazon, as has been said, since this industrial corridor doesn't have an active neighborhood association, the only thing that Amazon was required to do by law was to post signs on the property. What they did was post signs on the side roads of the property, so there basically no traffic occurred. So instead of posting them next to Highway 89, where it will obviously be seen, they post back at the back edge of the property where they wouldn't be seen. And as a result, when the public meeting for the for hearing about the planning or making public comment about Amazon came to fruition, 2 people showed up on Zoom. The meeting lasted 13 minutes. That's interesting for me. Part of my background is in one of my earlier incarnations of life, I was an attorney. And part of being an attorney is talking about what kind of duty do you have as, well, in this case, what kind of duty does the city have to us as citizens? And I would argue they have a public duty to make sure that we are given the opportunity to be informed from the very beginning, which they did. And you know, what's happened with this is what they have basically done the very minimum that's stated in the law, but nothing else to make it effective notice. So if you look at this map, you scroll up this a little bit now, and then away. There we go. And one of the things you'll notice is this Clear Lake overview that's annexed into the city as part of the urban growth boundary. The part that's purple is part of the Clear Lake overview. But these parts that are carved out, like the road along Green Hill, the airport road, and all these areas here, they aren't part of the Clear Lake overview. But if you look at these areas, right, that where this is going in, you can see that there's housing in here, that people live here. And the city didn't even think it was worthwhile to go and knock on those people's doors and give them notice or hang something on their door. So some of our group has gone out and knocked on some of the doors recently, and people still didn't know this was going on. And when they began to talk to people about it, there were real concerns raised by the people living closest to property. So I would start with first real big problem is that there was not effective notice given to the public. Should have been done at the beginning. Should have been stated clearly to Amazon, and there should have been notice to this neighborhood association and the Happy Bethel Neighborhood Association, because they are the two closest neighborhood associations in the community that are going to be most directly impacted. So they didn't bother to give you notice. They didn't bother to give the Happy Bethel community notice. And here we're here out with you. A couple of weeks ago, we were with the board of the Happy Bethel community. So we are now seeing the associations, at least understanding that this is happening and going on. It's
Stan, can you look at the name of some of those streets in the middle of that neighborhood?
This is Airport Road, the old Airport Road, right? So, right. So this is the road that's before it swings around to the airport, right here. And if you go upward, and you'll bring this down a little bit, this is Aubrey Lane. Right? And to the point that was made earlier about traffic impact analysis, one of the programs that Eugene has is a program called Vision Zero, which is designed to bring traffic problems and deaths, collisions downward. This spot right here, for the first 4 years of their data collecting, the corner of Albury Road and 99 had the most serious traffic accidents of any more than any other places. So I'm sure you've all driven this road and gone from the belt line past Jerry's and upward. And if you've driven it, you know it's crowded. There's a lot of, it's fast, right? So it's a dangerous road already. And if you think about the amount of traffic they're talking about, it's 2,600 vehicle trips within 20 hours. And they're saying that to the 2 peak hours that they're talking about, there will only be 100 trips during that. Which means during the other 18 hours, you begin to figure out how many trips are coming from 2 driveways on the highway 99, it's exceeds 138 vehicle trips per hour coming in. So it's not minor, it is a lot of traffic we're talking.
I agree with you in terms of city giving notification to surrounding neighbors about developments that are going to impact their quality of life, especially. That area that you pointed out and referred to the city not giving these people that live there notices, there aren't any homes there, man. There's like maybe a couple of homes.
There are homes, I mean.
There's a cup, but it's not like that is all industrial. Those are all like Pape Cat and all.
I understand that there's a lot, it's sparsely populated,
It's mostly industrial.
but it's still, I'm still saying, the city should have gone and given them effective notice.
And I agree with you
They should have given.
in terms of residential neighborhood, but the way that you pointed that out, you made it sound like a residential neighborhood, and it is not a residential neighborhood. Let's just be honest about that.
I don't think that's.
One thing to add just real quick, because my wife and I's first rental was this house right here. And
I can't see you, sir.
yeah, right there. And we lived there for about a year getting like a bunch of GI and UTI infections. Found out our well was bad and the rental company hadn't tested it. So we moved out and told them that we didn't, it was recession and I was not working a lot. So we didn't know that we had legal recourse on that. But I've gone back and knocked on the door and told those people, your well's probably still bad. But I do agree. There's only, I think there was this old airport road has a couple of houses down it, but then you immediately get into industrial.
I mean, if we are gonna get an e-commerce site in Eugene, this is literally probably the best case scenario where we go.
Well, okay, I don't disagree with that. If you're gonna get an e-commerce warehouse in Eugene, and I would emphasize the if at the front of that.
Right.
Yeah, this site is part of the Clear Lake overview. Maybe you can scroll down or stop about the Clear Lake overview and get that.
In your, just in the aesthetic, oh, there you go.
Can you like that one there for me?
Oh,
Just kind of give up.
So,
Can you?
right off of Clear Lake, just on the south side of Clear Lake is those big grass fields and Golden Gardens Park where they're proposing, the sports complex that's gonna have like 700 parking places. I mean, that's gonna be like a really high traffic, but from a planning perspective, that's the green space buffer zone between the Bethel neighborhoods and the industrial area. And that's a zoning requirement, is to have a green space and recreational areas. But then that next lot over at the end of, I can't remember that street that's gonna connect into Clear Lake, but it's cut off on the edge of Golden Gardens right now, but that's owned by Bethel School District, and there is plans to put a new high school there. So to your point, there's not a lot of pedestrian traffic or schools there. They're developing that right off Clear Lake Road. That's been in the plans for a very long time, is to put Bethel's new high school right there on Clear Lake Road, right next to the Golden Gardens Park, which is going to be the 700 parking space sports complex that would be like Eugene's
So regional
Kiefer Center. Yeah, it's a regional.
sports complex.
You're asking about the Amazon places and company goes warehouse. Imagine like the demand for water is that. Do you know how much demand for water is?
Of course, it's not like this being a data center, it's a distribution center. They've had in Eastern Oregon, the data centers have gone in there, and that's created tremendous problems for the people in the area. It's one depleting the aquifer and also poisoning the aquifer. And in that development, there's cancer which me, speaking for myself, speaking to the kind of corporation that is that this happened.
And historically, like, residential neighborhoods next to Amazon warehouses see a 10% increase in property value because of the noise, right? Well, maybe commercial areas are going to go up or higher standard. Essentially, a mile away from, noise leading to the buildings, you'll see about 10% value.
Just had a couple of questions. How many jobs is this warehouse? I've been here since 1950s, and the city has turned down many wonderful opportunities for jobs, such as Hewlett Packard. We turned that down. So how many? You put Costco in there. Did anybody fight Costco? So my question is, I get that 99 is busy. My husband was the engineer on the reconstruction of 99. And the reason people are getting killed is because people wander out or drunk. Ask Steve Gilbert. That's a part of and speed. But my question is, it was reconstructed to hold a lot more traffic. My second question is, besides jobs, besides not liking Amazon, is there another reason that we shouldn't put jobs and a company
So
in there? I don't know anything about Amazon other than I lived there when it started in Seattle. But how many jobs would we be turning down for Eugene?
So the
And is it
Chris Little from Eugene Weekly, he reports that there'll be 1,500 jobs.
1,500 jobs?
But if you begin to then talk about what's going to happen with those jobs, Amazon is committed to reducing warehouse jobs by 3/4 by replacing them with robotics, office for days. 2030. 2030. So there may be initially short-term jobs, but very quickly, the number of jobs will be reduced. And if you go to Amazon's warehouse or S website and look at that website, and they will tell you very clearly how committed they are to transforming their warehouses into robotics production and distribution. So that's the first thing I would say is not going to be a long-term job. I would also say, if you look at Amazon warehouse jobs across the nation, there's several things that are true about them. They have tremendously high surveillance of their employees to push high production quotas on them. The result is that they have injuries in their warehouses at 2 times the normal rate of other warehouse sites. So those jobs are that we will have will be going away, 1, and 2, they're not really good jobs because Amazon trusts their employees to engage in meeting high quotas of production quotas that results in their employees having higher numbers of injuries on the job. So there's a whole framework of trying to understand what kind of jobs are we bringing. And we got more on that, but I'm going to catch here first and then move on.
I wanted to speak to the question of resources and jobs, because if you look on the website, it's really interesting how it's like science fiction, the degree of sophistication of what AI robotics can do now. Further commands, pick that up, take that over there in the orange, very specific. But my question is, if the site of this size by 2030 is now 3/4 robotics, is the power of it? Where's that going? I mean, that's a big increase on the grid.
I'm glad you're still going to speak to the jobs issue, because I think several of us, I think we all probably are interested in economic growth in our community, because I think we need that. We definitely need it. And, I mean, I do order quite a bit from Amazon, so I'm kind of outing myself. It's the mixed room, so I'll just say that. I was hopeful at the thought of possibly hiring, offering more jobs in our community. However, I'm really disheartened to hear that it's been so covert. This seems creepy to me. Why it's going off like this it just makes me feel really gross, honestly. And second, if the majority of the jobs, like some have offered and some have said, are $20 an hour jobs, which it's a job, it's not a living wage job. And we have a housing crisis in this community that is horrible. We need people in homes. And if we, and I've read oftentimes, unfortunately, again, I am a user of Amazon, but when they come into a community, oftentimes, yes, they will hire, but a lot of the highly desired jobs are found by people who don't live in the community. So they're pulling people away from other communities, again, making the housing issue here really difficult. So, I guess I'm asking, like, what is a wonderful organization that could go into that place that would actually fuel our neighbors? I mean, we need economic development. So it's difficult, and it feels so gross the way that it's so.
This is the city's dilemma. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at
Yeah.
the Clear Lake overview, this is back in 2018 when this got put in place. And you can read the purpose of this Clear Lake overview. And it's a beautiful, the purpose, when you read it, it sounds beautiful, right? So you're talking about jobs, just reading. Clear Lake overview zone is intended to provide and protect provide and protect the city's large lot industrial portfolio and Clear Lake expansion. A minimum of 11 large various sizes lots will be created. Provided, notice this language. Will be provided as a means to ensure the future development fulfills the community's desired outcomes of economic prosperity. The goal, an increased employment opportunities. Good goal as well, right? While addressing environmental justice concerns. The overlay implements supporting comprehensive plan policies that call for fairness, equity, and achieving a healthy environment, a vibrant community, and overall improved quality of life in the surrounding neighborhoods. This sounds beautiful, but it's not what actually happened. It doesn't match them. Right, I've got a question back to you first.
Yeah, the jobs piece, I'm sure if you use Amazon or not, you've seen their blue vans on the streets, you've seen other things. So their UPS used to be their primary mode of delivery, that switched to using Amazon drivers. UPS is next week laying off 19 drivers in this community. There's a really great job with pensions and all that. Amazon pays $18 to $20 an hour to drivers. You know they're going to be using driverless vehicles as much as possible. I've seen them in Corvallis. Because I work at U, I also visit OSU periodically, and you see cities, on the sidewalks delivering stuff to do small things for people's housing. So I mean, most of the good paying jobs are going to be construction phase, building the building. There's going to be probably dozens. 1,500 sounds like a lot. If that's going to be
putting,
if those are the operational jobs, I'd be surprised.
when you begin to look at the warehouses that have already modernized, the jobs actually turned out to be the person who was hired online, no real briefing of them. And they're basically coming in to watch the machines roll by, or the robots do the work. And if something stops, then they're basically there to service the machines. And And if you read, accounts of this work, I mean, these people, are hired online. They come in, if they decide they don't like it, they just quit online. There's no real investment in the development of them as employees because they are basically robot tenures as part of the company. So again, it's, if you look at their vision for their warehouse, again, I invite you to go look at their website. While they still how great it's going to be because the robots, they don't get sick, they don't, all the things
Amazon's
that
not the
we-
only one that's automating jobs.
No, that's- Everybody is, that's a problem for all of us.
Yes.
It's a job.
We have a growing population and a lack of, like someone said, lack of housing, lack of jobs, lack of everything.
Questions here first.
Has anybody that you are aware of done an assessment of other areas or towns that these warehouses have gone in and looked at the impact that what they promised and what they ended up getting?
We don't have the resources to do that. What we have done is looked at other communities that managed to keep Amazon out. So, trying to find a playbook for our helping us.
So it might be helpful to find out the impact of those that came in thinking that it was gonna be something better than what it turned out to be.
I know that's out there already. True.
Sorry, another concern is that, having a facility making it so more convenient is gonna hurt small mom and pop businesses, brick and mortar stores in our community.
That part is true.
Other side to that is it would provide a distribution outlet for manufacturing that's happening. So that could be potential.
Yeah,
But that means it's like,
if you think about the industrial corridor, I mean, the hope of the city when they developed the Clear Lake overview was to get high quality, light industrial organizations to come in that would have high paying jobs so they could develop the airport and expand and bring other things into the area. And, it was, at the time, 2018, it was a pretty good vision. It just is not coming to fruition the way they envisioned it originally.
What types of businesses were those that they contemplated, or what businesses would you contemplate and support moving to Eugene?
No, I think they were contemplating smaller warehouse businesses coming in.
What kind of product and jobs? Any
Well, I
specificity?
I don't know for sure because part of I think the dilemma for the city is they put the Clear Lake overview together in 2018 and they opened it up and tried to attract businesses into it. They didn't get any bites on their, invitations. So really, Amazon is the first.
Well, what about your organization, Indivisible? Like this lady asked a good question, I thought, like where has Amazon built these structures? What has been the community impact?
That's a great
That's a
question.
really good question. It didn't sound like you were interested in the answer. So what, for Indivisible, like what's your next step and what businesses would you like to attract to this community?
Well, we're not a development organization, right? So, I don't have, I personally, Indivisible doesn't have an answer to that question. I mean, if you get around to Indivisible in Eugene, we formed in December in 2024, right? So we're just over a year in existence. And the early part of our existence, of course, was getting our feet on the ground to begin with. So, and we're involved in a lot of things. So I appreciate the question, and I'll try to do more research to get some answers to those questions. But really, we are opposed to this warehouse because of the problems it brings to our community as opposed to the benefits. And we can clearly see that.
Well, I join you in your objecting to the lack of transparency, but we don't know the answers to those questions. Okay? Yeah.
Good, what it says, 10% property value goes down, but. You're very good.
Lots of examples.
Half a mile around.
I was just thinking of the businesses that are already around that area, not necessarily in the Clear Lake overlay, but there's Springfield Creamery and Glory Bee Honey, and I mean, these are Willamette Valley
Great.
positive
Happy, yeah.
businesses. And I think the impression and reading that entire paragraph leads you to think that that's more of what they were thinking.
And I think the money for tonight.
And these businesses aren't protesting, Honeybee and.
No, but you do that. I mean, the name was hidden on the application. So the people just in the past many months finding out that this was Amazon.
Well, actually, just to,
A couple months.
finally, said it a couple of weeks ago.
I heard that Amazon officially lost the land December 25th.
Zoning is a very blunt tool to make a refined outcome. And so, although that's the goal, the ability to discriminate between businesses based on their practices isn't enshrined in zoning. So maybe we need a whole nother tool, but just to play devil's advocate, the city is using the tools that are in their toolbox, and those tools are not effective at creating the outcome that Indivisible or Stan would love to have happen, or that anybody.
I think if you really got down to the talking with the city folks and they were talking honestly, they would say, this really isn't what we have in mind, but it's what's come.
I think that's exactly right. And I mean, the process to create the Clear Lake overlay zone was the Envision Eugene process, which was our communities look at our urban growth boundary and the need or not, like whether there was a need to expand the UGB and whether for what purposes we need to expand it versus creating more opportunity in the already existing urban growth boundary. And so part of that, the horse trading that came up with all those acres was to provide jobs. And certainly some of the best options for jobs would be playing to our strengths, which are food production industry, things that multiply the job effect by helping the farmers succeed and then using their products to create a value-added product and doing it in a sustainable way. There's lots of good outcomes, but that's not what we've got on our plate. On our plate is this particular outcome, and so we need to sort of wrestle this monkey first.
I'm curious, have you guys tried to find out how much tax revenue is predicted? Are they gonna do a tax break like they did to
No
Hyundai?
tax breaks, but
That's good.
it's been calculated. The last article by Chris Will, who writes for Eugene, there's a column called Bricks and Mortar. And the actual amount that we go to the city of Eugene is less than $250
Per year.
per year. So that's 200.
Well, it's something. I mean, it's better than getting a massive tax exempt nonprofit in there.
Well, it's not, nobody's talking about that, but, let me see if I can find it.
So we have everything else. I would also like to say, I think that if our goal is to get good jobs to Eugene, we should all think about how we vote at the state level. We've got a state government that makes business hostile in Eugene, so we're gonna continue to get these rabid corporate entities that are the only ones that can make things pencil out in Eugene or in Oregon. So
To give perspective for the amount of money that is collected as property taxes coming to the city of Eugene, 200 and, he says $290,000, that's what he calculates. That will be part of a $930 million budget. So then you begin to think about what you gain.
it pays for the the extra assistant city manager.
One person, yeah, pays for one person. So it's, can't say it doesn't provide something, but compared to the negative consequences, I don't think it's worth it. That's my question.
So if they've already bought the land, isn't that a done deal?
No, just as we were talking about, there are lots of spots where the city can be challenged. And there are, in essence, levers that the city can get a hold of and pull to bring this process back to people. And that's essentially what we're trying to make happen, to bring it back so that the traffic analysis takes place, analysis of where the water flows from the property. You know, there's lots of research that shows when you pave over large areas of land in an urban environment, it increases urban flooding. And there's really nothing that's been looked at here that says where that water that's going to be creating going off the asphalt is going to go. There's a small drainage gardens on the drawings for the warehouse, but not nearly enough to handle the kind of water that come off with the paving of so many acres of land. And where's that water going to go? Again, we don't have answers to as it moves into the city drainage system, how it's going to flow. And if you look at the basin maps for water, it is in our area. This warehouse is going to be in the Science Center basin. Water, with city maps. But in reality, what's going to happen in the
Well, just a connection with Kansas Country Farms, they farm hundreds of acres of grain just north of there. How will that water run affect the farmers?
I mean, the people who live here, whether it's residential or not, the people who actually live there say their property regularly floods. So they say their property regularly floods in the winter anyway. So they're very concerned that water will flood on them. So let's see.
So Stan, we have maybe 5 more minutes on Amazon and then we're gonna switch over to the situation at the federal building, perhaps?
Okay, and maybe I can make a transition to that by bringing up another set of issues of why I think Amazon is a bad choice for us. So Amazon Web Services. What we have, we can here, Amazon Web Services, which is the largest part of your business actually. Amazon Web Services provides data to the Department of Homeland Security. That data is being used to locate our immigrant neighbors here in the framework for the Amazon delivery that we're talking about. The trucks themselves have 360-degree cameras on them that collect data, observe how the collecting data on their employees to keep them in this high delivery mode. But on anywhere they go. And then you go to their website, see it, they're going to have their employees wearing AI glasses. Those AI glasses are also going to be collected at every household that they deliver a package to. And you probably already heard of the Amazon Ring doorbells that collect data that go directly into the Amazon data collection framework. All of this is data that can be directly accessed by the Department of Homeland Security. So this is a private surveillance system that is then being fed to the federal government for surveillance and enforcement. And we all should recognize that Amazon we are going to be a much heavier surveillance city than we are now. And you may have all heard the campaign to keep the block cameras, license plate readers out of the city that finally was successful. And this is another way to bring that back in to a different place. So transition. This begins to talk about the larger political context we're in. And beginning to talk about what's happening with, in our country.
Could you clarify that? So you're saying that if Amazon is already delivering in Eugene, right? They're already
Amazon is, yeah,
So they're already collecting information as they go around to deliveries. What you're saying, and that they're sending that information. That's what I'm hearing you say. The information when they deliver to Terry's house, because she orders, I know. They're collecting from Terry all the information they get, and they're sending it to Homeland Security.
that's the direction they're going in.
Is this the direction they're going, or it is the way they're going?
It is the way they're going.
And so where did you get this information?
The information about the trucks is on their own website. So you can.
So they're on the trucks now, so Terry's information is at the Homeland Security.
Not just Terry, but
I don't get it, so they don't have it.
Did they drive their?
They are.
Oh,
They're on your street.
So every street, they try to stand on the street, it's like information.
There's a process. There's a process.
So you know that for sure.
They're in the process of transforming their fleet to use what are called Rivian van. So they're electric vehicle companies. And those Rivian trucks are all.
Google Maps goes down and gives you maps every neighborhood, and they had that
It's
thing.
not like that content, so it'll go away from the content.
So you know this for a fact, or are you thinking it's happening?
I'm saying that the rich trucks that they are buying as the fleet, they're moving into. Have this capacity.
Have the capacity, so not everybody's information is being sent to Homeland Security.
Not this moment, but I'm telling you, this is the direction that they are going.
Okay.
And as their fleet cars is placed with the Rivian
I have one
trucks,
of those.
this is what will be happening.
So it isn't happening now, but it is with Google. Yes.
So
Terry.
Amazon has the contract with, Amazon owns Ring, and they have a contract with Flock, who does this master rating, which indicates Flock out of Eugene, but people still have Ring doorbells. To my knowledge, Google does not provide a database that Homeland Security can access to get their street view, and they blur license plates and faces and things like that when they make their maps available. Not saying Google's not evil, they're evil in other ways.
They're able either, I know I'm saying yes. I just want to be clear that he's saying what he's actually saying and that Amazon is doing. And so I hear this group saying that they are collecting from Homeland Security. That's the bottom line.
That's a database that Homeland Security can access.
And we should all be already scared. So I work, I volunteer at a theater in Springfield. And we thought we had a burglary in place, and so our street system goes off, blah, 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 blah. And I kept looking at the video, and I finally called Santa Pat, and I said, do you have a substitute driver attempt to get into our theater? And the woman could tell me exactly what time, 6:07, he picked up the trash, 6:11, he picked up the recycling. Santa Pat already has those cameras, and they already know where their drivers are, exactly what they're doing. I don't know about Apex or Royal Flush out here, but in Santa Pat world, they know exactly what their drivers do, and where they are at back over the picking up. Yeah, or they get lost in the theater because of two drivers. That was only the fun part. Really, we shall be scared.
Well, the problem, or the situation with that is that that's within that company.
Yeah.
It's not universally available around the search.
Right.
So
So I don't know, but that waste management company, I look at this own Santa Pat, they're all over the country. And they're in that.
I think it's important to recognize what you're saying. I mean, it's not good that Santa Pat is collecting that kind of specific data, but with Amazon, they are the ones that are providing the data services to the Department of Homeland Security. Not just to the Department of Homeland Security, to the Israeli government fighting their war in Gaza and engaging in genocide in Gaza. And so, you know, there are, from my perspective, moral reasons not to invite Amazon into our community. So from my perspective, that's my perspective on the morality I have. I oppose personally companies that aid surveillance and that aid surveillance in ways that aid both what's happening here in the United States with ICE picking up our people here and in Gaza, where people are getting started.
Before we move on from Amazon, we've talked about the working conditions for those jobs. And it sounds kind of dramatic and bizarre, but there have been reports of workers having to pee in bottles. And that's pretty widespread in case anybody didn't know. That there are many cases of people doing that because they have to keep up that rigorous work schedule. Seems kind of gross and weird.
And that's the aspect of surveillance that Amazon pushes towards their employees. So I'm not sure how to approach this next